talked a lot about doing things OPM, other people's money. Can you explain that?
Yeah, other people's money is how you earn an infinite return. So to break it down,
But then don't you always owe them?
well, it depends. Like, let me give you an example.
Okay.
If I have $10,000 and if I go buy a boat, my boat is a liability. It only goes down in value. It gets used, it gets wear and tear. It needs money put into it, right? So buying a boat is a good example of a liability because it goes down in value. But let's just say I put $10,000 towards a house. And let's just say that that house makes me $200 every single month. Let's say that house goes up 10% in value that next year. Let's say that house gives me tax benefits. Well, that $10,000 is not a liability. It's an asset because what it's doing is it's increasing my asset base. And so in the beginning, you have to use your own money to cause deals. What do you do when you run out of money? Well, if you can find really good deals and use someone else's money, like most typically people are using OPM all the time. If you put 3% down on a house, and then that house goes up. I was in Miami on Fresh and Fit. It's another podcast. And Fresh put $10,000, a 3% down payment down on a house. In the last 4 years, it's gone up $350,000 in value. Well, if we want to calculate his ROI.
Explain that. Wait, people listening are going to be like, what? It's going to go over their head. Tell me exactly.
He bought his house for $300,000 and it's now worth $650,000 because real estate has gone up in value the last several years. So he only put $10,000 down. If he were to sell his house today, he's going to net at least $300,000. That's a 3,000% return on his money.
But I know people listening are like, I've looked at real estate. There's no way that someone will let me just put $10,000 down. I don't have the credit. I don't have this, that, the whatever excuse it is. Explain to people how to do it without just having to buy your program. Give a little tips and tricks, and then we'll talk about how they can get in touch with you.
So if you're in Florida and there's a $300,000 house for sale, the bank says put 3% down, and we'll put up the other 97% of the money. That's called OPM, other people's money. In this case, it's the bank money. So what is 1% on $3,000? $300,000. It's $3,000. What is 3%? It's $9,000. So you have a $9,000 down payment. But
then your mortgage is so high. How are they going to afford that?
Well, that depends that depends on a couple of things. Are you moving in as a single person and you're going to find 4 or 5 other people that you're going to rent to that are going to help you cover your mortgage? Because it's like, oh no, it'd be way more prissy and fun for me to have the house for myself, but maybe you can't afford it. So you got to get creative and you got to think a little outside of the box. Maybe the house is a duplex. Maybe there's a family living in one side and you're living in the other side and someone is helping pay for that house for you.
Got it. So the point is think outside the box, think of ways that you could charge rent so that you could be able to live there and have other people help you or pay the full amount of rent.
Yeah, because remember,
sometimes listen, I live in Florida where you see a lot of these homes. They have these guest homes that are almost just as big as the main house. They might not be as well done, but it doesn't really matter. And you could rent it to a couple different people or one, and that could help or actually cover the entire amount.
You got it. And that's the way people
I love that.
Thinking these days. You got to get creative and think outside the box. My very first house, I rented the basement and covered my mortgage, right? My second house I bought, was 3 times bigger than the house I was living in. And I chose to rent it out and make a positive cash flow rather than living in the nice digs. So part of that is a principle I have called delaying gratification, something that society just absolutely doesn't get today, which is I delayed what I wanted for 5 years. I didn't own a single luxury anything. But 5 years later, I was a multimillionaire and I could travel the world, drive any car I wanted and pretty much do anything that I wanted. And I moved into a custom built 10,000 square foot house on the golf course that I custom built. Why? Because I delayed gratification.
But people will say, again, devil's advocate, but what about the liability of having someone that you don't trust, you don't know, living in your basement? How do you deal with that? Give some strategies on how you pick the right person
Well, first of all, what you're talking about is risk. And most people have a really bad relationship with risk. They think that risk is bad. But I want to be clear. If you don't take risks, you're never going to get a reward. The secret is to actually take the biggest risks where you mitigate it, and they're the most intelligent and calculated risks so you can get the biggest upside. Imagine the hundreds of homes that I own. I don't even know the names of the tenants that rent out these homes. Wow, but why does it work? Well, it's because it's a calculated risk. It's based on financial data. For example, my average renter has to make $60,000 a year. Why? Because when a renter makes less than $60,000 a year, like 30 or 40, they tend to trash a house. They tend to not make their payments. 60,000, they start treating the house like it's their own. There's a level of respect that they have for other people's property that is associated with socioeconomic status. So that's one of my top hats is you got to make $60,000 a year on up, or else I'm not going to rent the property to you.
How important is it to surround yourself with people that are successful? And not only that, but like have a partner, meaning your wife, your husband, whoever it is, that is a good, person to lean on. Like, how important do you think it is to have these people versus leaning on yourself?
So there's a very common in the world of personal development, there's very, very common stat they talk about. They say that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I remember when I heard that, I said, this is weird. I'm going to do an experiment. I wrote down the 5 people I spent the most time with. I wrote down their average incomes, and then I averaged out all 5 incomes. And it literally was the amount of money that I was making. I was like, oh my gosh, holy shit. I am literally making the average of the people I hang out with, because birds of a feather flock together. And I was challenged when I started introducing a mentor that made over $10 million in real estate. Just adding that one person changed my behaviors, changed my thinking, changed everything. And within years, I became a multimillionaire. And then I was like, I need to have billionaires. Well, so last week I was in Miami, and for my foundation, I was hanging out with my friends that sold their last company for $1.6 billion. They think different, they talk different, they act different. And by having in my inner circle, does it impact my perspective and my perception and the opportunities that I have in the world? 100%, hands down.
So if people want to sign up for this Clever Summit, they obviously will be surrounded by very successful people that have done it, that have proved it. I know that Ryan Serhant will be there, Patrick Bet-David. What will we be hearing from them and from you? Do you guys get up on stage and give speeches? Like, tell me exactly what happens there.
Yeah, so there's going to be 20 speakers there. Patrick Bet-David, I think he's being paid a lot of money to come out and do an economic update on what's happening in the economy. Yeah. Ryan Serhant, that just launched his Netflix show about, realtor work down there in Florida, Miami. He's actually going to be there speaking on stage. Pace Morby, who has his own TV show, is going to be there sharing his strategies on subject to strategy. I'm going to be there sharing my buy and hold strategies. So the event is going to consist of 20 different experts that are going to be speaking about their niche and how it's working right now in today's economy. And then the other half of the event is literally networking and connecting with the other people there, so you can find partners and deal flow and basically, cause some huge financial level ups in your life.
Right. And what is your buy and hold thing that you're going to be talking about, strategy? Tell me a little more about that.
I'm going to be talking about the last several thousand deals that I've done, and I'm going to be talking about an alternative to 401ks and IRAs. I'm going to be sharing with people a passive way to take their money out of 401ks and IRAs that are earning them 4 and 5%, or even equity in their home, and then how they can put it into real estate passively, turnkey, without getting their hands messy, and earn 27 times more money than the stock market. Mathematically, statistically proven.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. People should definitely sign up for this. The last question for you, what are the most significant trends you're seeing in real estate today? And how do you expect these trends to evolve over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So if you take a look at multifamily versus single family, multifamily real estate is overbuilt, and it's going to be overbuilt for the next several years. That means that it's not a smart place to put your money because it's on the decline. Single family, we haven't caught up since 2008. We're missing 6.2 million homes. And if we work our butts off as a country for the next 10 years, we might finally finish covering the missing supply for the demand that's out there, which means that single family real estate for the next decade is going to be the hottest asset class in all of real estate, with the highest appreciation, with the highest price increases, and with the highest ROI. So that's where I'm putting my entire focus for the next decade, single family real estate. I go so far as to say that anyone buying single family homes in the next 6 months here, 12 months here, over the next 5 years, you're going to see record high appreciation on those homes. So anyone that says, shoot, I'd love to become a millionaire, or if you are one, I want to become a multimillionaire, then come to Clever Summit and learn about which single family homes that you can buy literally and have manage and run themselves, because it's just transferring equities and 401ks and IRAs into a different asset class that is simply more lucrative.
You are a best-selling author. You are a business coach. You're a breakthrough mentor. Tell people that are listening and watching where they can get a hold of you and find you besides the summit.
If you go to @Kris Krohn on any social media platform, you're going to find me there, except for OnlyFans page. I don't have one of those, but you're going to find me just about, and you're going to find
Too
me just
bad.
about, I know, you're going to find me just about anywhere else.
Okay.
And we'll
And
connect.
how can people sign up for the Clever Summit?
If you go to kris.cleversummit.com, spell it KRIS, kris.cleversummit.com, grab tickets. The event will completely be sold out. There's 2 yachts. Dr. Dre's yacht is going to be, at the Clever Summit. We're having a huge yacht party the night before. We're renting out a huge club for one of our big networking events. It's going to be a party. It's going to be fun. It's going to be inspiring. And if you come really prepared, like to want to do deals, you're going to find deals.
And just so I know, if people that are listening are really thinking about this, if someone wants to get into the real estate market and buy their first home, and it could be, I think that the hesitancy is that people look at you and they see how successful you are. They see your Instagram, they see you running with, the big guys, and they're looking at houses that are very small and they don't have a lot of money. Can they hire you to advise them on how to do this and find maybe potential partners and all this stuff? Is that what people can do with you?
Or better, I'll just do it for them. That's what I have 1,800 partners, and they basically say, Kris, I'll partner up. I'll put up the money from my 401k or IRA or home equity. Your team will do 100% of the work. We'll get the highest ROIs that you have in your 21-year career with this. We'll split the money equally, and basically everyone's way better off than they would be on their own.
And tell me what people need to have in their pocket to come and work with you then. I mean, can they say, I can only invest 10,000?
Honestly, I don't care what you have in your pocket. I care about one thing. How hungry are you? If you're motivated, I will provide a path forward for you.